customer may give you what's called a data-driven pen test. Okay, now in a data-driven pen test, they're going to give you a nugget that you got to find. So that nugget that you have to find might be his boss's pay stub.
Right, sure.
Give you something and say, can you find our secret blah, blah, blah?
Right.
And you got to go find that. I'm going to give you a rule. The rule is old services, new customers. New services, old customers. Okay, what's that mean? If the customer wants you to do a voice over IP pen test and you've never done a voice over IP pen test, I would only do that on an old customer. Does that make sense, guys?
It does. It's because he's trusting you with his network.
Right, right.
So if there's a problem, there's a little leeway there, I guess.
There's a little bit of leeway. I can let the customer know, hey, we're going to take a little bit longer. Whatever it is you want to tell them, there's some rapport there. If this is the first time dealing with this customer, it has to be something you've done 100 times.
Right.
We're not doing it.
Right.
If the customer asks me to test SCO Unix, you've never tested SCO Unix, and it's a brand new client, this is not a test you should do.
Right. Okay.
Right?
I'll remember that. I like that.
Yeah. Old services, new customers, new services, old customers. And that keeps you out of hot water. And the reason I'm telling you this is even the best of us take down networks. Even the best of us blow stuff up. And anybody who's been pen testing for a while has destroyed something. I'm talking not critical servers offline, blue screen, critical stuff like that's just par for the course.
Right.
Even people who are good at this blow stuff up. Let's not put our finger on the wrong side of the scale. You know what I mean?
Right. No. I agree. Yeah.
Let's just not. Okay. Now, let's say you're in a situation where we have to take this. Right? Okay. So here's the thing that I would say. If you're in a situation where you have to test something you've never tested before, then what I want you to do is use Amazon AWS, okay, and I'll show you why. Let's say you go to the Amazon Marketplace, and now you build a network, and in the network you need to deploy Palo Alto. You see how I can just right-click and throw in a Palo Alto, and it's only going to cost me $1 an hour? I need to throw in Juniper. So it will allow you to build stuff fairly quickly, fairly cheaply. See there? And you're only charged for while it's running. So I run it for 8 hours, it may charge me $20. If you're in one of these situations where we've got to pen test this and we've never pen tested it before, I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but I'm just telling you based on my experience, the absolute best thing for you to do is you need to build it the week before you get on site. Yeah, you need to know because you're going to turn around and run tools that you've never run before against something you've never built before. So your likelihood of blowing something up is highly likely. I mean, it's just highly likely. So the first place that I would tell you to go to is the AWS Marketplace. That's the first place that I go because I can usually build, pretty much whatever the customer is running. The next place that I use is a place called CloudShare. CloudShare has what are called environment templates. So you jump down here, you go to cloudshare.com, you go to the bottom of the screen, and you click Environment Templates. Now on these environment templates, you can deploy a full-blown virtual environment. So you can be like, I need Active Directory with SharePoint. You see it? Check it out.
Right.
You right click on that, and for $86, that sucker will spin up Active Directory, SharePoint, Team Foundation server, you know, GitHub
Everything.
implementation, all of that, Visual Studio, all built into that sucker. All you do is name your domain and add users.
Right.
Right? You're like ready to rock and roll. And I mean, it's up and running 8, 10 freaking virtual machines in like 6 minutes. The whole thing's up.
Up and running, right. Actually, that's a great idea.
Right? And I've run into this because the customer wants you to test something and you've done it before, but you've just done it against a different version. I've run into that. Okay, customer wants us to test SharePoint, and last time you did it was SharePoint 2012, you know? And that's what happens in our job, right? So you spin up something. So I did a penetration test, and I needed to do this JBoss exploit, this JMX exploit, right? And I couldn't get this exploit to work. I'm on a penetration test, and for the life of me, I can't get this doggone exploit to work. So what I did was I logged into my Amazon AWS, and I built a server running JBoss. I built the server, configured it, got the exploit to work. You see all this? Here's the steps. And when I would get through it, I would be like, why is this not working for me? Couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for me, and it ended up not having the correct version of compiler and some other tools on that particular machine I was trying to exploit. So I built it, got the exploit working in Amazon. Once I got it working, I got it compiled properly, then I was able to turn around and exploit the machine in the customer environment. Now, I'm walking and I'm talking to a guy who had been a student of mine for 6 years. Now, this was before he convinced me to start doing all this mentoring. That's actually the guy who convinced me to do what I'm doing right now. You know, he's asking me about this last pen test, and I'm like, yeah, I had to build a Red Hat Enterprise Linux and get everything configured and get my exploit working on my machine, on a machine in the cloud. And he goes, you built a server while you were on a pen test? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, Joe, you know, I've been working with you for 6 years. You've never told me that.
Right.
I was like, well, I don't know. What's the big deal? And what made me realize was at the time, I was teaching based on what the book said I was supposed to teach. Does that make sense?
Right.
Not like what I did at work.
Right. I got you.
Right. So now I teach based on, no, here's what I do. You know what I mean? Here's what I actually do. So if the customer's running a Java dev stack, you know, where they need Spring MVC and all that kind of stuff, I go to here and I spin that sucker up. And that'll give me JBoss and Glassfish and you know what I mean? All right. Now, I'm sorry to have been so long-winded, guys, but I was really trying to give you like
no, actually, it's good tips. It's great tips if you want to build out your business like this. You know, it shows how to keep things organized and synchronous, and tips on how to on what to do and what not to do with the client, which you don't, it might not be apparent right away until after you lose a couple clients. So you know these tips, but until you know these tips beforehand, it's I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think it's especially important for your situation because if you're trying to build a process, 90% of the process is having these documents ready to go.
Right at your fingertips, right.
Right, because the customer sees your level of professionalism and how organized you are as well.
Right.
And the customer's like, okay, yeah, got it, got it, right? Okay, guys. Sorry to do so much long-winded process stuff. Let's jump in the lab. Let's mess around in the lab a little bit. I'm sorry to spend so much time on this, but I really do think this is important.
Sure.
Well, it's important to see because then it kind of validates, what I was frustrated about yesterday when I was asking general questions about, hey, where are we going? And people got upset at me asking that question, but it's a legitimate question. I've never been to your system before. I don't know what I'm doing. It's not like I don't know how to use the tools, but I don't know where I'm going to get on.
And that was the reason why I said, what you've got to do is you've got to build a process so that every new person gets the playbook to follow. Okay? Period. You can't just sit there and be like, well, because my coworkers are too lazy or too whatever to do it, that I'm not going to do it. Build the process for yourself, modernize the process, get it really organized, really documented, use my templates, clean up my templates to fit your situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then build a process for your job, and then every time a new guy comes, you train the new guy. Don't make guys go through what you're going through right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, off my soapbox. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, so we're all logged in. Is everybody on the box? Just real quick.
No,